Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Living Life Naturally. And today I have Devin Burke with me. He is an international and TEDx speaker and best-selling author of The Sleep Advantage, the founder of Sleep Science Academy, and one of the top health and sleep coaches in the world. His books, keynotes, programs, and videos have inspired thousands of people to improve their sleep, energy, and life. Devin Burke helps high achievers and exhausted insomniacs get and stay asleep so they can wake up with more peace, power, and presence. So he was named one of the top 25 health coaches in America and has studied innovative holistic coaching methods from some of the world's top health and human performance experts for over a decade. And as a speaker and coach, he's inspired thousands of people to open their eyes to what is possible through creating new sleep, health, and performance habits and routines. So welcome, Devin. We're so thrilled to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I apologize for the super long bio there, but yeah, it's good to be here, and I'm excited to share with your listeners and your audience and we have a conversation around sleep and performance and health.
Yeah. So what got you started specifically with the sleep portion of coaching?
It wasn't my pain. It was somebody else's. People think, oh, you must have been a terrible sleeper. That's like a superpower of mine. I sleep amazing. It was a high performing client I was working with, and they were having issues with their sleep and they asked for help. I said, well, listen, I studied all these other things, physiology, nutrition, all types of psychologies, never sleep. So let me look into what's available. And when I looked into it, I was like, wow, there's not much, not very many good options here. You have medication, and if you could find a good CBTI therapist, that's pretty much what was available. And then I started looking at the science of it, and I was like, whoa, I was ignorant. I had no idea how important sleep was. I thought it was a waste of time. I thought it was, and then when I looked at really around how much happens during the night, how awake our minds and bodies actually are, even though it seems like they're asleep, that's what got me really interested in it.
So tell me a little about that. What is it that's kind of the awake sleep part of our sleep?
Yeah, so essentially every 90 minutes we go through what's called a sleep cycle. And through a sleep cycle, there's different stages that we go into of sleep. And there's two different types of sleep, REM sleep, or rapid eye movement, and non-REM. And so with non-REM, there's four stages 1 through 4. The first two stages are what's considered light sleep. And then stage 3 and 4 are what's considered deep sleep. And each stage of sleep is correlated with a different brainwave state. And so when I say our bodies and minds are wide awake during the night, I'm talking about really stages 3 and 4 and REM sleep. So stage 3 and 4, that's delta sleep. That's when our bodies are repairing. Our immune systems are activated. Hormones are being released. Our glimpse system is, our brain actually shrinks, and a cerebral spinal fluid flushes out the beta amyloid, the plaque that builds up Alzheimer's. So much is going on in our bodies during that stage of sleep. It's like analogy I like to use is the trash men come out and clean up all the garbage from the cellular garbage from the day, from the air we breathe, the water we drink, all that. And then REM sleep, that's really when our minds are, and actually it's interesting, in certain stages of REM sleep, your mind's actually more active during the night than it is during the day. And that's dreaming sleep. And so our bodies actually become paralyzed, so we don't act out our dreams. We're not punching our bed partners or, doing all the crazy things that we do in our dreams. But that's when our brains are we're working out the emotional traumas of the day. That's when, short-term memory gets shuttled to long-term storage. It's really important. REM sleep is so important for memory and learning and consolidation of memory, for emotional regulation and emotional sort of intelligence. So that's what I mean when I say our minds and bodies are wide awake during the night. And so every 90 minutes, we're going through these sleep cycles. And if we're doing it right, we're getting, between 4 to 5 cycles a night. So that's, 7 to 8 hours a night, ideally for a healthy adult.
And is there a specific, because I've heard one thing, so I want to check this out with you. is it true that we have better sleep if we start sleeping early in the evening?
Yeah, so they found that they call them like the money sleep hours or the golden sleep hours, or there's a lot of like fun terms that people have used. And yeah, for whatever reason, because of the way our circadian clocks are, it is between, usually it's like 10 p.m. and 12 a.m. That's when you're getting most of your deep sleep, that first sort of initial stage of sleep. And then really it's the last stage of sleep that you're in where you're getting most of your REM sleep. And the unfortunate part about this is most people do things that get in the way of that first deeper stage of sleep. And then they cut short because of their alarm clocks, and just not having enough time, the last stage of sleep. So people sort of, unfortunately, do things that are not productive for those two bookends of the night.
Right at the beginning, we had, I'm not sure, it must have been in your bio where you talk about how people don't really, or you may have said this in your bio, that people don't realize exactly what sleep does for them. But, you know, as a health coach myself, there's so many different parts of our health that are so affected by sleep. One of the things that you talk about is weight loss and sleep. And so I know a lot of my midlifers in there, that would be very interesting for them to know what the correlation is between the weight and the sleep.
Yeah, so there's a very strong correlation. So what happens when you're sleep deprived or not getting enough sleep is the hormones that signal being full and being hungry, ghrelin and leptin, they get dysregulated. And how that happens specifically is we become more hungry and our bodies don't know when we're full. So, so ghrelin and leptin are these two signaling hormones that when we're not getting enough sleep get disrupted, which leads us the next day to be very hungry. And then while we're eating all the wrong foods, not realize when we actually are full. Then there's the psychological component to this, where, the willpower component, where you have the water or the soda or the salad or the hamburger. And when you're tired, it's willpower is like a muscle, it gets lower. So, so now you're not only you're craving sugar and fat, because when the body is depleted of energy, that's what it looks for. It looks for sugar and fat because that's the highest forms of energy. So you're craving all the wrong foods, your willpower is low, and your hormones are not telling you when you're full and telling you that you're hungry. That's a recipe for disaster when we're talking about weight loss. And so I've seen this with a lot of people over the years. They're eating healthy diets, they're exercising, but they're not really focused on sleep, or they're having issues with their sleep, and they're storing fat around their waistline. And that's also correlated because cortisol, with fat storing hormone, gets elevated when you're not getting rest. And so you're carrying around your body essentially is in a stress state, and it's carrying around food reserve around usually your midsection, which is where most people want to lose it. And so here becomes the challenge when we're not getting ideal amount of sleep or quality of sleep.
So how is it that you teach high achievers and exhausted insomniacs to actually be able to get to sleep and stay asleep so that they can wake up with more power, peace, and presence?
Yeah, well, we take a very systematic approach. So we use education, we use technology, and we use accountability and coaching. And we take people really looking through three lenses. The first lens is the lens of the mind. What is going on in someone's mind that is keeping them from sleep? Then we address the body. What is going on in the body that is keeping the body from doing what it knows how to do? And then the last phase is looking at the environment. So the mind and body really is to get the amount of sleep that someone needs. And then the environment really is only for sleep quality. So looking at how do we increase the quality of someone's sleep, specifically stage 3 and 4 and REM sleep. And so most people do the inverse. They look at the environment, then they look at the body, and then finally they end up in the mind. And we found that it's most effective when we give people the tools, the mental tools, then the physical tools, and then we address the environmental tools. And we do that over several weeks. And and people do, through lifestyle behavioral change, through accountability, through measuring and tracking and seeing how, when they implement these different techniques and strategies, they do see a massive shift in their quality and quantity of sleep. Even people that have, for decades have been taking medication or seen therapists or, all the things. It's amazing.
Yeah, I know that women, when they get to that midlife phase of their life, their sleep is something that, one of the first things that goes, really one of the things I hear so much is that they have not been able to sleep, or they wake up in the middle of the night and they have trouble falling back to sleep. So what kind of little tips could you give them to help them to get to sleep and to stay asleep?
Yeah, so this is a really a challenging time for most women is, perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, that hormonal time. And so there's a lot of factors. So that's a physical factor, hormones get disrupted, body temperature gets dysregulated. So you're waking up with hot flashes, and temperature is one of the things that actually controls sleep, temperature and light. So it can become a rare, I think I've read somewhere that 60% of women when they go through menopause have insomnia. And the two types of insomnia is onset insomnia, having issues initiating sleep, and maintenance insomnia, issues staying asleep. And so this does become challenging for a lot of women. And so how do you manage it? There's a lot of strategies and there's a lot of techniques. It's really the same way we manage the other challenges that people have that are not women. It's with looking at the mind, looking at the body, and then looking at the environment. So what can happen is during this time, people then become stressed about not sleeping. They fall into this we call it the pedestal pattern. They put sleep on a pedestal, which it deserves to be, but that creates more pressure to get sleep. So now there's some anxiety. Oh my God, I'm waking up in the middle of the night, and I need to get my sleep because sleep helps reduce, the chances of dementia, and Aunt Sue has dementia. And then here comes the psychological issue that keeps people up, right? So you need to have some awareness-based practices and some, support to understand how your thinking is actually adding to the challenge of your body having an issue, being able to get or stay asleep. And then it's really looking at, well, what can you do to help balance the hormones, or what tools or techniques can you use to help regulate your body temperature, so that so this doesn't become an ongoing issue, because it can be like acute or transient and then not become chronic if you understand the psychology around it. And then you're also putting in place some tools, like a tool to keep your body cool. If you're having a hot flash, there's certain supplements that you can take to help regulate your body temperature. There's things that you can put on your bed, like certain types of sheets, devices that kind of cool down, that'll keep you cool. So there's all these sort of levers that you can pull around the temperature aspect of what goes on hormonally. But really, I think it's just important for people to almost expect that during this stage of life, you're going to have some challenges. And the key is not to get stuck in thinking that you're going to have those challenges for the rest of your life, because that's what people actually do. So, is that helpful? I mean,
yeah. Is there a specific thing that if people wake up in the middle of the night that they can do to get back to sleep quicker?
Yeah, actually there is. And it's really important for people to realize this. It's not try. Most people wake up in the middle of the night and then they try to get back to sleep. So they do things so that they get back to sleep. And that actually creates an expectation. It creates unnecessary pressure, frustration, or we can just say stress, which then leads them to not be able to get back to sleep, which is what they want in the first place. So when you wake up, if you're tossing and turning, if your mind's racing, and you kind of have the sense that you're not going to be able to fall back asleep, remove yourself from the bed and bedroom, because you don't want to anchor your bed with hyperarousal and tossing and turning. So go into another room, low lit room, do something boring like reading or a puzzle or knitting or stretching or meditating or anything that's boring. And then once you start to feel that sleepiness come on, then just go back to bed. But don't do those things so that you can sleep. It's a really important distinction. You can't force sleep. Sleep's something that happens naturally when you allow it to happen. And so people, I find, get in this mindset of thinking that they can control something that they can't. Just like you can't control your heartbeat, it just beats. Your lungs, they just breathe. Sleep's the same category. So just accept that you're up, notice that you're shifting into frustration, and then do something that's boring, that then gets you sleepy, and then go back to sleep. It's really that simple.
And of course, there is this connection with sleep and stress. So this is kind of a catch-22. You're stressed, so you can't sleep. If you don't sleep enough, then it creates stress. So how can people get around that?
Yeah, so sleep and stress are bidirectionally linked. So like you said, when you're not sleeping, your body's in a more stressed state. When your body's in a more stressed state, your chances of you getting to sleep are reduced. So it's really a matter of understanding how to, we call it, master your stress. So what are some tools, techniques, and strategies to understand the psychology around what's creating the stress in the first place? In our academy, we use mindfulness, we use cognitive behavioral therapy strategies and techniques, acceptance and commitment strategies and techniques. There's a lot of ways of helping somebody understand the ways in which they create their own stress and take responsibility for that stress, and then also make a choice to put in place boundaries to then get out of that stress or change habits around. Most people manage stress. They either numb out with food, alcohol, or drugs, they lash out in anger, or they zone out with work, with TV, or with movies. All those methods aren't going to help you reduce stress. They're just distraction methods. So understanding like really how to break those, what we call your stress blueprint, is important, very important, because that will then allow you to get your body out of a stress state. And then once your body's out of a stress state, it knows how to sleep, it knows how to rest. So it's just really a matter of helping people get out of their own way. And there's so many things, but we keep it simple. It's like the simplest thing you can do is create space in your day. Slow down when you feel like things are speeding up, whether it's your heart or your mind or whatever, you're frantically running around. Like stop. Like just choose to stop and breathe consciously to get out of that sympathetic state and back into a parasympathetic or rested state. Most people are sprinting through their day without stopping, and our days are marathons. So you need to stop, you need to drink water, you need to move your bodies, you need, what's good for your health is good for your sleep. So, so it's really just, a balance between self-care and self-comfort, and understanding, having some self-awareness and some tools and support to execute on that.
So tell people a little bit about your book.
Yeah, so I wrote the book initially because all the books that I was reading about sleep and sleep science were overly technical, and to be frank, they were kind of boring. And so I wanted to give people a simple guide, where they can get the strategies, the tools, and the techniques so that they can get better sleep. Like, it's important to know the science around it, because that creates, that will help somebody prioritize it. A little bit of science is great, but really what people are looking for is practical tools and techniques. And that's what I share in the book. It's, without the fluff. I think it's a 160-page book, gives a whole supplement guide for, like, depending on, what your challenge is. Here are some supplements that might be good for you. Here's how you can change your environment. Here's how the things you can do to within your body. Here's some tools and techniques you can use for your mind to improve your sleep.
Awesome. And I will put a link in the show notes and let everybody know how they can get a copy. So where else can people find you?
So on the social channels, I'm actually my name, Devin Burke, DEVIN Wellness, Instagram and YouTube and all that. And then Sleep Science Academy, for those people that are having sleep specific issues, you can go to sleepscienceacademy.com and explore, the offerings that we have there as well.
Awesome. I really appreciate what you said today, because I know the importance of sleep, and so many of my clients, that's one of their number one things that they'll say is sleep eludes them. And I really appreciate the tips that you've given us today, and appreciate all the studying and wisdom that you have done. I just learned so much from people on my podcast, and I really appreciate that. And I appreciate that extra learning. And I'm going to get a copy of your book because it's just, I know, so important.
Thank you for the work you're doing. I mean, there can't be enough people supporting people with their health and their wellness. So many people need it. One thing I am excited about is later this year, we're actually going to be rolling out a sleep certification for wellness and life coaches.
Wow.
To help them understand some of the methodologies we've discovered that work. Because oftentimes I hear wellness coaches and life coaches, that have their clients have sleep issues and they don't really have the tools or the understanding that we've been able to develop with the amount of time and research we put into this. So that's something exciting. Yeah. So it's, more people can really get these tools and use them to help more people. That's really what it's about.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate you spending your time with us today.
Yeah, thank you. And I hope everyone takes at least one thing from this conversation and applies it and improves their sleep.
Thank you, Devin.